We've had the pleasure to play Dragon Ball games for over 3 decades, which means we've had character select screens come and go. Some good, some bad, some whatever this is. With the newest addition to the Dragon Ball catalog, Sparking Zero has inspired people to have some fiery discussions about its underwhelming character selection screen. Of course, as soon as I'm done making the video, they update the damn game. I think much of what I said still holds up, and even if they were to further fix the character select screen, it would still be okay to discuss the state in which the game was released. But we'll get to that later. Alright, moving on. Some even coping as hard as theorizing that it was just for the demo. It was not. The game has been out for like 2 months now, and this is what we have. Unorganized, unappealing, ugly, uninspired. Even if you like this, you gotta admit there's some unwanted feelings when you see so many people complain and even make mods to fix or change the look and feel of Sparking Zero's character select screen. We'll go in depth specifically about Sparking Zero's select screen, so if you're interested in that, go to the timestamp on the description. But having played so many of the games, I wanted to briefly take a look at some of the character select screens over the years, and figure out what happened with Dragon Ball character selection screens. Going all the way back to Dragon Ball Butoden on the Super Nintendo, I think this might be one of, if not the first Dragon Ball character select screen. This sucks. It's basic to say the least. I'm basically looking at a bunch of text trying to choose who to fight as. Not even they look excited. Remember, this was 1993, the same era of fighting games as Mortal Kombat 2 and Super Street Fighter 2. Mortal Kombat 2 having a somewhat basic but iconic screen, and Super Street Fighter 2 having so much personality and unique characteristics for the time. I just can't really forgive this for being what it is. A merit I will give it is that the roster is pretty damn good for the time that it came out, coming out even with transformations and going up to Perfect Cell. It can only go up from here, and it did, sort of. Dragon Ball Butoden 2. We have better pictures now. They removed the background for some reason, making this look even more unpolished than it actually is. On top of that, our opponent here seems to be going for the world record of seizures given in 1 second. He's just a little indecisive, forgive him. A slight upgrade over the last game in all manners. This is one of them that I sort of want to skip. It's such a small upgrade that I have nothing to say about this. Except in Dragon Ball Butoden 3, we finally have a modern looking screen. Grid, characters, 2 assets. A little late for the time as it came out in 1994, in which we had Killer Instinct and Tekken. Wow, can you imagine that? The difference between these 2 franchises are incredible. So we can see that the Butoden series were always sort of behind. I wanna like these games, but no matter how much I love Dragon Ball, I can't come up with an excuse to play these. A Super Nintendo game that wasn't a Butoden entry. Good. Hyper Dimension might be my favorite Dragon Ball game from this era. The fighting actually feels good, and the presentation isn't bad at all. The character select screen is miles above any of the Butoden series. You get a nice little illustration of some of the most OP characters from the Buu saga, as well as Cell and Frieza, because why not? What's funny is that the time limit represented by Buu over here is so cute that I didn't even realize until going over the footage that this specific Buu isn't even in the roster. He's just here to chill. Best screen of this generation by a mile. Just to round up this generation of Dragon Ball games, we also have Dragon Ball Buyu Retsuden. I am so sorry for butchering every single name in this video. This is the only Dragon Ball game for the Mega Drive. Yeah, the Mega Drive. It looks and plays like a worse version of the Butoden games on Super Nintendo. Nothing crazy here, names that I can't read and alright illustrations. Nothing wrong here. But this game came out in 1994, and it gives away the same faults as its Super Nintendo counterparts. It's boring and simplistic for its time. ending with a bunch of disappointing character selection screens for the 4th generation of gaming. Let's start with the 5th generation, with one of the most hated Dragon Ball games out there, Dragon Ball Ultimate Battle 22. I kinda like this one. It's not great, but it's unique. The characters light up as you choose who you want to play as, and the music isn't bad. With the graphics of the PS1, now more than ever we're getting graphics that greatly resemble the manga. I gotta admit, this is a very basic select screen, I get it. But it kinda reminds me of those stickers you put on windows as decorations. They were kinda just throwing shit on there and hope it stuck. I wish the characters moved after being selected, or, maybe some kind of effect happened. It feels static. I do like how colorful the screen is after the characters have been selected. Sometimes people really forget how colorful the world of Dragon Ball is. Next we have Dragon Ball Final Bout for the PS1, a fan favorite. Not really, it's not good. But this isn't bad. You get this cool stony aesthetic, but it makes me think that they're dead. Like, this is a sort of mausoleum. You even get some illustrations when you select your character, but that looks rough, right? It's not just me. It looks weird.
This is going to be a problem. I don't have time to waste here.
I get the effect that we're going for, but it looks terrible. I do like having voice lines when you pick a character though. I feel like that's a modern technique that has survived through the years.
Playtime is over. I will send you to heaven immediately.
I got my perfect form, mate.
To round off the 5th generation, we have a Saturn game. That's surprising. Dragon Ball Shin Butoden, the last entry from the Super Nintendo franchise. And I'm sorry, but this looks like a Flash game. I guess I'm just not a Butoden person. This is just... Shin Butoden has by far the strangest character selection screen we've seen. Okay, so let me try to explain. These 3 blocks represent faction, evil guys, good guys, and the rest, etc. The extras. The illustrations are nice, but then it sub-selects into a list within the group. It's so unnecessary. Honestly, like this whole franchise, throw it away. Actually, Jesus Christ, this whole generation of home console Dragon Ball games, fucking throw it all away, it sucks. Can you believe it? Good games, good Dragon Ball games. We start off the 6th generation with a banger, Dragon Ball Budokai. I think we got really lucky with Budokai 1. That whole game is brimming with personality and assets that really show off sides of the Dragon Ball. What the fuck? That really show off sides of Dragon Ball that people usually omit, like the colorful and fun aspects of the franchise. Although as you can see, there's a severe lack of characters, it doesn't even matter. Having 2 different styles to look at, Chibi and Dragon Ball style, sounds jarring, but I think it works really well. It's cute, stylish, and compact. This might be one of my favorite character select screens so far. It doesn't take itself too seriously, plus it adds to the greatness of the game. To my surprise, for Budokai 2, they completely changed it. The rows have become a rotating circle, and the chibi style was replaced by a 3D model of the characters. And surprisingly, it works. This is yet another banger of a character select screen, keeping up with the colorful art style and adding a ton of characters and costumes. The drastic change from Budokai 1 to 2 is amazing. It might have been the biggest Dragon Ball roster at the time. Good screen! Which takes us to Budokai 3, arguably one of the most important and popular Dragon Ball games ever, even now. It keeps its colorful style, but it loses some of its charm for practicality, which makes sense as Budokai 3 has even more characters than 2. Nothing else noting for this one. Practically the same as Budokai 2, but not as good in my opinion. I am very biased when it comes to style and colors. Sadly, Budokai 2 doesn't really get talked about enough. I like the screen for 3, but ultimately, 2 is still the best one so far. Moving on from revolving circles, we go into Super Dragon Ball Z.
This man isn't black!
Not that super.
Super Dragon Ball Z!
If you haven't heard of Super Dragon Ball Z, man, you're missing out. This arcade-style fighting game is such an underrated gem for the PS2 and arcade. The combos and stylish fighting you're able to pull off is fantastic. Plus, you're able to make your own character and buff him up with their own abilities as you see fit, which is what this thing is on the right. This is Super Dragon Ball Z's character select screen. Kinda basic when you first look at it. Plus, as you can see, there's not that many characters to choose from. With two of them being sort of oddballs here, them being Chi-Chi and King Piccolo. I love that Chi-Chi's here. She's been shown to have incredible strength and proper training, so I'm sad that she's been reduced to just the annoying wife. Anyway, I must say that I'm partially biased to this screen as I owned this game as a kid. The music, colors, and style is extremely nostalgic, and I think it makes for a nice arcade style. But for a home release, I can understand why some people can see this as a basic and underwhelming game. Still, I find it charming, as an arcade title that was ported to the PS2. Again, please check this out if you're a fan of Dragon Ball games. You won't regret it. So far, you can tell that I prefer style over substance. I love a flashy screen that tells me enough about the characters, yet makes me feel at home. It makes me want to feel like I want to learn more about these characters. So tell me, what the hell is this? Budokai Tenkaichi 1. Not a game I'm overly familiar with, as I started with Budokai Tenkaichi 2 and 3. But jeez, this sucks. Again, I'm getting Flash game vibes. While the music is nice, the slow scrolling and jarring character models makes this painful to navigate. Left and right for the characters, up and down for transformations. Gross. Also, having everyone just look straight to the camera makes it look like mugshots, which is kinda funny. I understand why they made the decision to do it this way. This was probably the biggest Dragon Ball roster to date, and I suppose they had to make it fit in some way, but this was not it. So for the next entry, they decided, hey, let's fix it. Budokai Tenkaichi 2. Here we go. This is how you manage having over 100 characters in one game, multiple rows, organized by group, arc, or series, as well as having their transformations inside their characters, as it should be. We'll get to that later. Oh, the music, the organized characters, the stylish drawings, it's all here. The one thing I wish it was that maybe it had a different background, or a more dynamic foreground. Otherwise, this is great. And lo and behold, a year later, we got it. Budokai Tenkaichi 3, still to this day the prime example of what a Dragon Ball fighting game should aspire to be. And its character selection screen is no different. The massive list of characters is divided in rows, just like Budokai Tenkaichi 2, with each character having their own Dragon Ball illustration. A little detail I like is having the map you chose in the background. It adds to the whole connectivity of it all, and it amps you up for the fight. It helps that navigating this is so easy and fast, as it should be. Hell of a good select screen. The last of the PS2 Dragon Ball games, Infinite World. This game always confused me, like it just feels like a Budokai 3 mod, and I'm okay with that. As you can see, this is a pixel by pixel of the same character select screen as Budokai 3, aside from some character changes. Again, I'm just gonna say the same thing. I like Budokai 2 style better, but this isn't bad. But, you know, it's literally just Budokai 3. I was gonna skip the handheld titles, but I think it's worth mentioning just for fun. Super Sonic Warriors for the GBA and Shin Budokai 1 for the PSP. I know, there's a kind of gap there, just bear with me. They kind of share the same aesthetic. They look pretty cool and they use all the space they can with those tiny screens. I like them. Super Sonic Warriors 2 changed the game. I guess, you know, literally. As this is nothing like we've seen before. This looks like it could be from some JRPG no one has played, but I kind of like it. The only thing is just I don't know if it's very Dragon Ball, if that makes sense. It's not bad though. Shin Budokai 2 changes things slightly for a more stylish approach. I like the green overtone, and by now you know I'm a sucker for having two different styles for one character. Doesn't stand out terribly, but I like it for what it is. Not a bad one. And then Ultimate Butoden for the DS, which I thought we were done with the Butoden series, but fuck, I guess not. This one goes back for a grid style select screen. I kinda like it. It's very different from what we've seen so far. It can look a little cramped because of the small screens, but it could be worse. I think it's a really neat idea to only have the eyes. Makes it really stand out. Also, sorry I don't have all the characters. Playing Ultimate Butoden for the DS wasn't really on my New Year's bingo card. Also, I just want to point out, this is a great looking DS game, which surprised me. Dragon Ball Evolution. Hear me out. No, seriously. Hear me out. I was completely done making this video until I went over a list of Dragon Ball games for the PSP, you know, just to be thorough, when I saw that there was an actual Dragon Ball Evolution game. For some reason, I had never heard of this. And you're not gonna believe this. Please hear me out. It's good. Like, surprisingly good. It's not like it's amazing or anything, but you know, I was just surprised that it was kinda good. It plays like the Budokai series, in a very loose sense of the word. And of course you have all the characters from the movie. And yeah, we're not gonna talk about the movie. That's a whole enchilada I'm too scared to unwrap right now. As you can see, there's plenty to unlock. I tried the game out and I actually got pretty far. I have to come back to this game at some point. I was bewildered the whole time that I was playing a goddamn Dragon Ball Evolution game. Anyway, this isn't a bad character select screen, but you know, nothing special. Just the designs of the characters that nobody really likes. Hopefully one day we get to come back to these weird ass games. There is one more though. Dragon Ball Z Taiketsu. It's yeah, whatever this is. And this is its select screen. Yeah. Let's pretend we didn't mention this game. I like all of these, and again, they're handheld games, so I feel like the standard should be lower, but even if we don't lower the standard, these are all fantastic and stylish games, blowing some of the other games on this list out of the water. Which, wow, jumps us to Dragon Ball Burst Limit, the first game of the 7th generation of gaming. I had never played Burst Limit until recently, and I gotta say, it's pretty neat. It has a unique style that borrows enough from Budokai series, while also doing its own thing. It sucks that this is its only entry. Where's Burst Limit 2? Anyway, the character selection screen is great. Extremely simplistic by first glance, but it knows what it's doing. This game only has 22 characters, excluding transformations. So by focusing on the illustration, it makes it look like this grandiose roster, while really, there's only like 4 characters that people will actually choose. Ain't no one playing as Saiba, man. One thing that piqued my interest is how everyone thought that HD meant shiny in this generation. Everyone has extra glare, and I mean everyone, in each illustration, but it just looks like they're oiled up and ready to go. It's kind of disturbing. Good screen anyway. I think we can safely say that this is where the charm, style, and uniqueness of these games in general died down. I'm not talking about gameplay, just pure aesthetics. Because, what the fuck is this, man? Dragon Ball Rage and Blast. Alright, I know a lot of you guys grew up with this, so I won't roast it too hard, but this is just bare bones. The usage of using 3D models for the profile and the previews is jarring to say the least. While transformations are under the selection of a character, it's just under another bare bones menu. It makes it feel soulless. Every character is just sort of in limbo until the fight. I kinda like the colors, but it's kinda almost too shiny. There's not a single shadow in this image. I feel like I have to squint looking at this. In a way, it reminds me of Super Dragon Ball Z, with the simple tiles over the yellow afterlife clouds, but even then, the style and colors are miles above this. So you think they would upgrade this screen or at least tweak it with the next game, Dragon Ball Raging Blast 2. But no, just look at this. I have no witty comments. I've seen fan games with more soul than this. I have seen Flash games with more unique graphics than this. Disappointing is the right word here. The models themselves don't look too bad, while navigation keeps being good as you can see every character at once. And their transformations are tucked under them. Not much else to say here other than Ultimate Tenkaichi. As you know, for the 6 of you that might have played this, its character select screen is actually not bad. They go for a scouter theme in here, having data and stats flash through the screen. While the models rotate on a 3D axis, it's pretty cool. The only thing I don't like is all the different pages. 5 pages for only a handful of characters seems silly, but it's not that big of a deal. I've always enjoyed how overshaded this game is. It kinda looks nice. Who would have thought that one of the worst Dragon Ball games in this generation would have ended up having with one of the best select screens? Crazy. And speaking of shitty games, next we have Battle of Z. I always forget this game exists, like seriously, who the fuck play this? I feel like they only made it to coincide with the comeback of Dragon Ball and the release of Dragon Ball Battle of the Gods. Which is always a terrible marketing idea, it rarely works. Just look at Sparking Zero and Daima. People just keep realizing that it's a rushed game. Anyway, we'll get to that. Battle of Z throws a shitload of info at you from one screen. Your character's health, power level, and even all their ultimate moves. Well, I kinda like it. The models are nice, except some of them are flying in their previews and some aren't. Like, how do you think they decided who flies and who doesn't? Not a bad screen at all. Also, I would like to point out that they added Cyberman, Cell Juniors, and the classic Frieza soldier, Benochiatsu. That is straight up disrespect. Xenoverse! Oh my god, I have so much nostalgia for this game. I no-lifed the fuck out of it back in like 2015, but I must admit, this is a charmless character select screen. The endless horizontal scrolling always bothered me. It takes forever to get to the character you actually want to use. The models are nice, and having the alternative clothes so easily available is awesome. And I must mention that the stats in Battle of Z seem useless, like the power levels, but in Xenoverse, they're essential to have. So I'm glad that you can see everyone's stats and moves from the get-go and so readily available. Information-wise, this is a fantastic screen. I just wish it had a little more style.
Attention, all proud warriors!
Naturally, we get to Xenoverse 2, and the modern era. That riff plays in my daydreams. They took what worked and carried it over. This one has a little more charm than Xenoverse 1, while also keeping its functionality. The stats, clothing systems, and horizontal scrolling is intact. While the blocks are easier on the eyes with an improvement over the illustrations too. Not much to say, other than yeah, this roster is so fucking big. They really should have thought of a better way to scroll. Dragon Ball FighterZ delivers one of the most stylish and soulful select screens we have seen in a while. The illustrations look great, the voice lines are on point, and the characters strike a balance between easy to navigate and having a sizable roster. The announcer also does a great way at making this feel like a proper tournament fighter. It almost gives me Budokai 1 vibes with how simple yet awesome it looks. I got nothing else to say, this is a really fantastic screen.
I can't give in now, everyone's counting on me.
Wow, we made it! The latest Dragon Ball character selection screen, and of course the newest entry in the catalog of Dragon Ball games. I wonder how many times I've said Dragon Ball in this video, Jesus fucking Christ. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. An amazing game in my opinion, with a sizable amount of small flaws that amount to my ceaseless bitching. This is the select screen. I wanted to like this screen, I really did. But the truth is, it sucks. It's cluttered, it's unorganized, and it's messy. Apart from this, the roster in this game is huge, meaning you'll be browsing trying to look for your actual character for an embarrassing amount of time. Going back to the tiles, I don't think I have to over-explain how uninspired it is, and how I mentioned earlier that so many people think this was a demo-only feature because, yeah, look at it, it looks unfinished, it's boring. Each character having their model ready to go is nice, and of course I must say, I love having the map in the background. The team chatter and voice lines are amazing in this. And of course the transition from character select to the fight is insane. It always leaves me in awe how fast it is. The amount of information on the screen isn't bad either. Having all your character's powers and proficiency level displayed, it's nice. But if it shows the transformations, why would it be 2 different tiles anyway? Or 3, or 4, or 5? It just clutters everything. And I have to mention again how funny and disappointing it was for the community to cope in a way that we thought this was a demo version. Damn, they sure fooled us, I guess. If it really bothers you, at least there's some mods out there that change some features, but what's done is done. Okay, so this is the new Dragon Ball Sparking Zero character select screen. With the switch view button, you can toggle between views, and of course this is the old one. Cluttered, you got all the characters out of order, just completely fucking mess. Goku has like 20 million transformations, so does Vegeta, holy shit. But now you can press LT, L2, whatever, and now boom. It's organized by, I believe it's order in which they were released, you know what I mean, and the order in which they were revealed. You got Saiyan Saga, Frieza Saga, Android, Cell, Boo, and of course Super, and then GT, and I guess Dragon Ball Ghost at the end, because it would look weird if it went at the beginning, so understandable. I gotta say, I kind of like it. I like it. They pretty much fixed everything that I had a problem with, at least with how the characters are represented and how you choose them. And then how you choose the transformations is that you go to a character that has a transformation, and then you go to select it, and boom, you have the sub menu. For example, yeah, there was Goku, and then here's Goten. You got all the different transformations. So, you know, a sub menu like many other Dragon Ball games had. I feel like this was how they were supposed to do it at first. But, you know, if you want all the characters just out and about, it's nice that they gave you the option rather than completely change it. So, in my opinion, pretty good update. I like it. And of course, this doesn't really change the style of this. The tiles still look uninspired. They look lifeless as Yamcha's body. They are boring to look at. And yeah, I just wish that was a little bit different. Are we gonna get another update to change that? No, fuck no. They're not gonna change anything else about the style, because of course it has to stay concurrent with the rest of the style of the game, which it's all this clean cut menus, which I've never really been a fan of, but whatever. At least they fixed the order of characters, which I'm pretty happy with. There's a fucking ton of Dragon Ball games out there, huh? Some I didn't even know existed prior to making this video. Honestly, who's out there playing Dragon Ball Taiketsu for Game Boy Advance? We have seen the styles and aesthetics of these games change over the years. Some good, some bad, some controversial. I hope with some of the cool stylish themes we've seen recently, like in Fighters, we can see some unique ideas for menus and of course character select screens in the future. There are no hardware limitations anymore, no guidelines, or anything stopping these companies from making interesting choices. Just a lack of imagination. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please don't forget to subscribe and comment what you thought of this random rambling. And please check out my Twitch channel where I play something almost every single day. Link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.